So I just saw Spike Lee's new Netflix film, Da 5 Bloods, which was a movie I was excited for. I really thoroughly enjoyed BlacKkKlansman, even if it had elements that I didn't particularly love, like it being overtly political to the point of it feeling like a sledgehammer was being smashed over your head with a message. But because of that, I was excited to a certain extent for this movie. It looked fun, I liked the setting of Vietnam, I liked what it was presenting. Unfortunately, it's a complete mess.
Black GI, is it fair to serve more than the white Americans that sent you here?
And by a complete mess, I mean it's mostly Spike Lee completely sleepwalking his way through this movie. Most of the time, it feels like this movie had little to no effort put into it. And even though I say that it had little to no effort put into it, of course I don't know for a fact that that was the case, but there are so many weird and questionable decisions in this that make it feel like he didn't put a lot of thought into it at all and just made another movie to either collect a paycheck or to try and have a message about Black Lives Matter, which is a very potent topic right now because America is literally tearing itself apart due to the coronavirus, due to this Black Lives Matter movement, with these protests and riots that are going on. This is, I think, was supposed to be sort of not a rallying call, but it's supposed to get the Black Lives Matter message out there. And this story, I don't feel like really does that. Now, I'm not the person to really remark on these topics. I think if you're a person that says all lives matter or support Trump at this current climate, it's a little bit cringy and you should probably think otherwise, or at least try to understand what the Black Lives Matter movement is about, because clearly you don't if you're saying all lives matter or supporting this person in office. And that's probably all I'm gonna have to say about that. So as far as the messaging of this movie goes, I'm not gonna remark on that too much because it's not really my place. But as a movie, it starts off poor. The whole movie, the whole first half especially, I think is particularly weak and at points almost unwatchable. The second half gets a lot better and a lot more entertaining, but the first half, boy, it's a slog.
Kaepernick is looking really, really good right now.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, me and you with him, but the people, I think whole thing has changed people's mind.
Of course.
In that, in no way, shape, or form was this about disgracing the flag.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, it was never that.
That's what they do sometimes. They turn the narrative.
And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Spike Lee doesn't seem to be really giving it his all. If you look at BlacKkKlansman, it has such a style to it, such a charm. It's really entertaining, but it's really like rich and has this lush cinematography. It has these great performances from Adam Driver and John David Washington. It has a lot of memorable qualities. But compared to this, that I think will age like fine wine. It already has. This movie doesn't seem like it has much that will be that memorable. In fact, I just watched it less than a day ago, and there are parts of it that are already just evaporating from my brain. It is so bland, especially in the first half. Again, it is so weak. The first half feels like there is absolutely no narrative thrust to anything, and a lot of the scenes feel like you could literally strip them out or move the scenes around and not much would change. There are moments where I was like, okay, so why did that happen now? Why did that happen here? And there doesn't seem to be a great reasoning for that. The main story is about these Vietnam vets who go back to Vietnam in search of buried gold that they buried. And there are flashbacks to them being in Vietnam with their squad leader, who is played by Chadwick Boseman. And the story is about that, essentially. They just try to find this gold. When it's cutting back and forth between the flashbacks and the present day stuff, it is really questionable because the characters that are in the present day are the same actors that play the younger versions of themselves in the past. In the 70s, when they're fighting in Vietnam, the actors that play those guys are the same actors that play the present day guys. It makes no sense to me. Why do we have these 50-year-old looking guys in Vietnam and then the same 50-year-old looking guys in present day Vietnam? Wouldn't they be like 120? It makes no sense. Why would you just cast younger actors?
We bury it. Later on, we come back and collect.
And there's other very weird, questionable decisions being made here, like how the characters in present-day Vietnam keep talking about Chadwick Boseman as like this mythical character. He's almost like a religious icon to some of these guys, and you never really see why. It's so bizarre to watch these guys constantly ogle about this guy, oh, he was the best of us. We loved him. And like, there's 2 flashback scenes establishing who he was, and it's not even that much of establishment. It is just him being a squad leader. And they're like praising and loving him, and I just don't get why. It doesn't feel like it connects correctly because you don't have that established. It's so weird that the first half of the movie is establishing like, oh, this guy has a kid over here. Oh, this guy's kid is sabotaging his way into the group to get a share so that he can be close to his dad. But then they don't establish the character that they're literally going on the adventure for. They're going on the adventure to not only find the gold, but to find Chadwick Boseman's bones, because he died in a firefight in old Vietnam. But you never see him. What? I don't get it.
Look what I found.
The other man in all his glory.
Who was that guy? That brother was the best damn soldier that ever lived.
Of course, near the end, there is some semblance of something to this character of Chadwick Boseman, and you understand why, like, the main character here, Paul, I believe is his name, is so manic. But other than that, it just doesn't work. The movie doesn't really connect with me because I don't feel like I know anybody. None of the characters are really that well established aside from the main character, Paul, who is this like manic PTSD-ridden guy who is wearing a Make America Great Again hat. He's the typical hyper-conservative dude who has PTSD. He's completely insane, but sometimes he's right, which makes him feel like he has this false sense of superiority to everybody. He actually takes over the operation at one point and makes everybody do what he says, even if it's kind of insane. He's the best part of this movie. I think his performance is great, and I think his character is legitimately interesting. Maybe the only interesting part about this movie. The second half still gets a lot more interesting than the first half too, because it actually feels like it has a structure. Things actually move from point A to point B. Things happen because other things happen. It isn't just characters wandering into different rooms and talking about things in different rooms. Oh, I'm gonna go into this bar. Now I'm gonna go into this room. Now we're gonna go and talk to my Vietnamese lady that I impregnated. No, it's like they go and try and find the gold, and then these landmine sweepers that are established in the first half in another scene that's very awkward show up randomly. I don't know why they would be in the exact place at the exact time as these Vietnam vet guys, but they're there. And so they have to take them hostage and say, they know about the gold, we can't let them go, we have to tie them up. And then one of the guys steps on a landmine and explodes. And then more guys come and try and kill them because the guy that they were trying to embezzle the money or the gold through decided that he wanted the gold, so he hired a bunch of guys to go kill them. It's like, okay, it's actually building to something. It's point A to point B to point C.
Being back here, it is not easy.
Now the time has come. Time is no place to run.
Broken man.
So what, you blaming yourself?
You don't even know.
It doesn't feel like this is a movie Spike Lee is super passionate about, like he was with Black Klansman. He seemed like he absolutely wanted to give that movie his all. Here, it's like, okay, I'll just shoot it, and then we'll go to a location and we'll just do a flat wide shot, cram as many people into the frame as possible so that we don't have to do reshoots, flat wide shot, couple close-ups. Okay, let's wrap it up. Next day, flat wide shot. It's just like so bland. The movie is so bland. And there is a story here that I think would be legitimately entertaining and potent. It's just that it gets completely buried by a lack of a clear narrative and a lack of the ability to edit. This movie desperately needs to be trimmed down by about 30 minutes, to be tightened up. It's a weird movie that has a lot of things going for it, but a lot of things that it kind of trips itself up with. So, yeah, if you've got 2.5 hours to watch a mildly entertaining, mildly interesting Spike Lee movie, this one's for you. So I'd probably give it a 5 though. 5 out of 10. If I'm feeling generous, a 4.